known the play for about 15 years. You revisit a play every few years if it's at all interesting to you. Sometimes it seems to click. Something about it says, no. And sometimes you read it and you think you're out of your mind. What did you see in it the first time? But this time when I read it, I thought that its blend of politics and the personal, which is something I kind of gravitate to, I thought was very apt for this moment.
Racine wrote Britannicus at a time when questions of power and the relationship between a ruler and his state were dominant in everybody's mind, because Louis XIV was the King of France and was, of course, a magnificent and terrifying autocrat. And Racine found in Tacitus, the Roman historian, in Tacitus's account of Nero's Rome, a way of talking about power without addressing Louis XIV directly. And because it was cloaked in history and ancient history, it gave him a certain kind of freedom. What that does is to create a play which can address mighty and political themes without directly speaking about the present day. And it's a play, therefore, which resonates for any age, particularly at moments of national tension. The play is set in Nero's Rome when Nero was a very young emperor, and quite a contentious emperor. It wasn't at all clear that he should in fact be the rightful emperor of Rome. Britannicus, his stepbrother, his half-brother, has a very strong claim as well. But Agrippina, his very powerful mother, Nero's mother, ensured that her son would rise to the throne. In order to shore up his own power, Nero has just abducted Britannicus's lover, the young Princess Junia, and brought her to the palace. Because Junia is a direct descendant of the Emperor Augustus, and a marriage between Britannicus and Junia would have strengthened Britannicus's claim to the throne. And this abduction of the princess has caused absolute chaos in the court. And as the play begins, Agrippina, Nero's mother, has arrived in the palace and is demanding to see her son and to try and persuade him to release Junia.
The way I began to get inside of the play was to do research on Agrippina. I went online and just typed in her name and began to read about her historically and became fascinated by who she was. She was a very tough woman, I think, very tough. Whatever obstacle came in her way, she moved right through it. She either moved right through it directly, confrontationally, or around it, or over it, or under it. She found a way.
I think that there is really almost no distinction in the play between the power dynamics of the family and the power dynamics of the state. Because this family, the family of the Caesars, really is the state. Agrippina was married to a former emperor. Both Britannicus and Nero, who are very closely related, are also rivals to the throne. So the family and the state in Britannicus, I think, are essentially the same thing, which is what makes the play so brilliant and confusing. When you're talking about your son, you're also talking about the emperor, and those two values of your relationship to your son and your relationship to your emperor don't necessarily coincide at all, and create some wonderful dramatic situations.
When you're dealing with a play like Britannicus, you're really dealing with three periods. So you're dealing with the time it was written, which is the late 17th century, and the French culture around Louis. Plus you're dealing with the Roman period, obviously the time of Nero and Agrippina, and you're dealing with the moment that we're sharing on the planet. So you have three time frames, and you're drawing from all three. And nothing I make is ever set in a time other than the moment that we're living in, because I don't know any other moment.
It's not unlike Shakespeare writing Antony and Cleopatra or Julius Caesar in a way, or Marlowe's Dido, Queen of Carthage that we staged a couple of years ago, in that you get an interplay of three different historical periods. So you have France in the 17th century, you have Nero's Rome, and then of course inevitably, because it's being staged today, you have an infiltration and a dialogue with our own time.
There's some amazing language in the piece, some lines that jump at me. Junior at one point says, "I wish indeed I had not loved at all," which is, I think, one of the really incredibly difficult lines to say for a human being on the planet. And then I think the idea of the play, in terms of power and politics, is very close to me.
What happens when power is abused? What happens when empire occurs? When one nation or one group of people consider themselves to be empire and have the right to do whatever they please in the world. The absolute selfish and self-serving and narcissistic abuse of power in the name of God, state, country, freedom, all the buzzwords. But when you come right down to it, it's basically, look, I can do whatever I want, and I'm going to do whatever I want. If I want to blow up the world, I'll blow up the world. So, to me, that's a very strong resonance. I see the play as a cautionary tale.
There's a common theme in a lot of Robert's productions. He's very, very interested in power and in the relationship between an individual ruler and the state that he or she creates. In a way, I see Britannicus as the third part in a trilogy, which started with his Richard II and continued with Oedipus a couple of seasons ago. The production is a good example of a particular kind of work that we have always pursued at the A.R.T. and will continue to pursue, where we take a classical text and, in a sense, strike it like a tuning fork and see how it will resonate in today's society. If we can find a way to create a dialogue between the contemporary world and a more ancient world, then the classical text might end up serving as a mirror for us in which we understand new things about our own society. And it gives us a poetic way of discussing our contemporary world without addressing it absolutely directly.